Okay, guys, I'm excited for this one. Remember, I told you I'm going to talk about the Tower of Babel? Okay. So, and the sons of Cush, Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Ra'amah, Sabachaka, the sons of Ra'amah, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush. Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one. Usually that translates into giant in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord, and the beginning of his kingdom was Babel and Erech, and Akkad and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. Out of that land went forth Asher, and builded Nineveh, and the city Rehoboth and Calah. And Resen between Nineveh and Calah, the same is a great city. So, we already got Nimrod. We introduced him and what his kingdom was. Now let's go to what they did. And the whole world was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said to one another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And then they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. So they're trying to break through the firmament with a large base tower. And there's a little more to it, because you have to understand, Cush had a lot of knowledge of the olden days from his father Ham. So that means technology and knowledge. So they knew how to get through the firmament, which is actually quite impressive for ancient people. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. It must have been Jesus, so in a form where he can travel, right? And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. So what was their imagination? Well, I think in the other epics of Gilgamesh and so forth, the whole point is to just overthrow God, take the technology, knowledge, and rule as gods themselves. But they were wicked people. So imagine giving a very evil person, going from a little tiny knife and then handing him nuclear weapons. That's basically what's happening here. So if he left it unchecked, the destruction would be unimaginable. Because once they're gods, you really think they're not going to fight over who's the best god? With the technology and knowledge they have, they're going to blow each other up. Alright, so let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. So, from this one nation, new languages were made. And because of that confusion, occults, secret societies were made as well, to use symbology so this never happens again. They're going to attempt this again, but they all have high regard for Nimrod. Now, I want to get into who the Antichrist is. We'll get to it, and I'm going to show you why I think so. Now, this is the angel speaking to John. I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was and is not. Very interesting. And shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. Who was the Antichrist? The son of perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth, and there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, and one is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. 7 kings. So in other words, these 7 kings are individuals, and they are archetype antichrists. 5 are fallen, 5 are fallen, so 5 are already dead. And one is, and the other is not yet come. This is interesting. So if we go back, the beast that thou sawest was and is not. So it lived, is dead, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, the place of death, hell, the underworld. That's what a bottomless pit is. It's the outer darkness. It's death's home, and go into perdition. The son of perdition is the one who's going to be the Antichrist, right? So, what is this? Now, I'm going to show you a very brilliant man who can explain this a whole lot better than me. His name is Rob Skiba. May he rest in peace. He's no longer with us. But he left absolute gems for us to study.
And down that path, you start seeing characteristics of these gods, and many of them are almost identical. And you start saying, well, they're too similar to not be the same, and even in the way they're depicted often. So these are just a few that I tend to focus on. And I believe this helps us to identify the beast. Now, this, thus saith the Lord, this is thus thinketh Rob, looking at the text. Because I believe the scriptures tell us everything we need to know. Amos 3:7, God says, I'm not going to do anything except to tell the prophets first what I'm going to do. So you have Yeshua saying that the last days are going to be such that there's never been a time like it, and there never will be a time ever again. So that's the premise that I launched my research with, and takes us to a section I call Identifying the Beast. And there are lots of scriptures that talk about the end times tyrant, the Assyrian, the beast, the lawless one, the Antichrist. I'm going to kind of work backwards. Look at Revelation 17, 8 through 11. The beast that thou sawest was and is not and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. Stop. Where does the beast come from? So he's not coming from Hawaii or Kenya or the United Nations. At Kenya, everybody knows Obama's the Antichrist. I mean, we have a very Amero-centric view of prophecy sometimes. It's like every president we've had is a candidate for the Antichrist. I mean, I don't vote. I don't believe in the system. If you see my Babel Rising material, you know why. It's just, the whole thing's rigged, for one thing. But I was kind of just sitting back going, I wonder what's going to happen if Hillary gets in. Because I want to see all the eschatology guys out there tap dancing to explain why she's going to be the Antichrist. The wound. Well, we got to keep this all in the same context. We're talking about beast here. It says, and I saw one of the heads of the beast with 7 heads, as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. Okay, so if we accept this list as a reasonable list for what's spoken of in Revelation 17, let's see who had a mortal head wound. Well, Nimrod did. According to Joshua, Esau cut his head off. That's a head wound. Pharaoh, at the time of Egypt, did not. Sennacherib did not. King of Tyre did not. Antiochus Epiphanes, no. Alexander the Great, no. Nero, sort of. It's said that he stabbed himself in the throat, and by the Hebrew reckoning, you might consider that part of the head proper. So let's, for the sake of argument, say that he's a candidate. And according to history, supposedly Hitler shot himself in the head, although recent forensic evidence says otherwise, that the skull was actually that of a female, and that he escaped to either Antarctica or Argentina, but that's a whole other seminar. So...
All right, I'm going to stop it there. If you guys want to watch the whole entire video, which is amazing. It's an amazing video. Rob Skiba, subscribe to him. The Genesis Revelation. Nephilim, Nimrod, NASA, Flat Earth. He gets into all the correlation of it, okay? Now, I want to focus on the names here. Hold on. So the current that fallen already are the 5. Nimrod, Pharaoh of Egypt, Sennacherib, King of Tyre, Antiochus Epiphanes, which is Alexander the Great. And one now is. It could be Nero or Domitian within that time period that it was written. And one will come. A short reign, which sounds like Hitler. Now, I believe that it is Nimrod. He was an Antichrist. He is not. He's dead. But remember, the spirit of Nimrod, I believe, is going to come out of the bottomless pit. Now, why would I say Nimrod? Because in the occult, or the Freemasons, they do this weird ritual for every president called during the inauguration, and it's the Osiris ritual. And they basically try to put the spirit of Osiris into the leader. Of course, it's just a mock ritual, but they know one day it's gonna stick. So, if they're conjuring the spirit of Osiris, and then Nimrod's other name is in fact Osiris after the Tower of Babel, then it stands to reason that Nimrod would be the Antichrist. But how? Even though his spirit would come back, what body would he enter into? Well, no body would be good enough, except for his own. Now, I'm going to jump off of what he has taught, and I'm going to tell you what I think. I've studied alchemy. There's an esoteric, unethical version of this science, study of science, during the old 1500s, 1600s, 1700s. And one of their practices was the homunculus. The homunculus was using the knowledge of how Adam was made in order to create artificial life, using the seed of man. The devil was teaching people on how to manipulate life and create different things. Remember, the devil can't create, but he has to convince human beings to create things. Why was Noah's time flooded? Because there was DNA being changed. Nimrod in the Gilgamesh was known to be 1/3 man, 1/3 beast, and 1/3 of like angel or something. So each of them add up to 666. There's actually a part of this video that explains that.
3%, and 2/3 being what? 6, yeah, okay, just checking. All right. Is Osiris, who is known as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. That's a familiar title. As Osiris, Mithra, Tammuz, etc., his symbol was a cross. In the Egyptian, it'd be the Ankh, which the hoop in the Ankh represents resurrection. Throughout multiple cultures as a dying and resurrecting figure. Of course, as Apollo and some of these other ones as the Son of God, in that case, which is interesting because Zeus is referred to basically as etc.
I want to really stress this out. Basically, like who he is. Okay? So, half God, half man. Remember, who is great as the beast? How did they do this? What is homunculus? Homunculus is basically just using the seed of a man and then putting it into some sort of artificial body. So, in other words, the Antichrist is going to be able to use technology and the practice of homunculus, which was perfected and became cloning. Who are they going to clone? The corpse of Nimrod. Do you guys remember the Iraqian War? In 2003, German archaeologists discovered what they believed to be the tomb of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, the king of Uruk in Iraq. Remember when I said that Nimrod and Gilgamesh are both the same person? So is Osiris. So the ritual of the spirit of Osiris is being done by all these secret cults on every single president. They have developed and perfected homunculus practice, which is now called cloning, a perfect clone. They now have the body of the Antichrist. So they have his DNA. They can clone him. Now the clone obviously is going to behave differently than the original Nimrod. So they still want that spirit to come into that body. But we know Nimrod is tall. So his clone is going to be really big and tall. Why do I get the feeling it might be Trump's son? Barron? Like he'll start off as good, but then the spirit of Osiris, Nimrod, will come out of the pit, which I believe will be opened by CERN. This is going to be using technology. What was the problem with Noah's time? They were using technology, bioengineering animal DNA with human DNA to create monstrosities. This is where you get all the folklore monsters. Nothing on the earth at that time was completely human except for Noah and his sons. Everything else was a giant, a hybrid, or an animal hybrid of human and stuff. Now, how does this play in? This is where AI comes in. Why does the devil need to do this? I'll explain. Now, this video, I didn't want it to be like this, but here we go. All right, DNA equals the name of God. So God has a failsafe. The name of God is written in our DNA, so he has to alter DNA. So what would be the best way to do it? That's right, people. COVID is a witchcraft word for Divuk. Poison arrows, the white horse. The desolation of God's temple is human bodies. They're disembodied spirits. They need bodies. And this is where AI and robots come in. Now, they use nanomachines to alter the DNA of God's name. That way you're more hospitable for unclean spirits. Don't worry if you took that. You're not without redemption. Your body is just now more vulnerable to spiritual attacks and possessions. And it's a lot more receptive to having other DNA be placed inside. What other DNA? Animal DNA, which will then create reprobate minds, more animalistic minds. People will sin continuously like animals. Do you see what I mean? And then who is Nimrod? Nimrod's going to be part animal. He's going to be a giant, a clone of Nimrod. He's going to have all those aspects within him. He's going to be a physical, scientific monstrosity god on the earth. And he's going to create a race of people who are hybrids that are not fully human. So think of like super soldier serum type of stuff. AI robots. AI is what's going to control the last part of a human that's going to resist, which is his spirit. I spelled that wrong. Alright, so spirit, his soul, basically, which equals mind. Okay, so now the mind. Where does that come in? Okay, that's the mark of the beast. Remember, this is the mark of Nimrod. He is that beast that gets resurrected from the pits of hell into the new cloned body. His body, which would be the perfect fit for it. And then he's going to create a people that can be hospitable. This is called the Black Awakening. So the Black Awakening, I'm not going to write the rest. All right. So basically, they have their Messiah, which is Nimrod. And we have ours, which is Jesus Christ. We have the Holy Spirit. They have a bunch of demonic spirits coming up inside people's bodies, and they also have their physical bodies altered to be more like animals. So they're going to be faster, they're going to be stronger, more vicious, less feeling, no soul. And any human who serves their government is going to be under control when they take the mark. Because it's controlling the mind. They won't be able to die even though they want to. Are you starting to understand here? What's going on? It's one big old conspiracy. But that's how they do it. They use fear of death, fear of what's coming, to force you to do this. Oh, there's a crazy virus out there. Do what we say. In every inauguration, every president goes through the Osiris ritual, which is Nimrod. Please make the connection, people. Please make the connection. That's what all these occult and secret societies are doing, man. They're trying to bring Nimrod back. They want him to be their new god. And he's going to be empowered by the spirit of the dragon. The dragon is going to help him appear like he can create miracles, but he can't. The devil can't create, so he needs bodies. He needs our permission. Why do you think he has to ask if you want to take this? Permission. These are spiritual rights. What do you think aliens are? These are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. That's what they saw coming up. They were coming up from out of the ground in Florida, in that mall. They were coming up. There's probably a portal around there. But they only saw their disembodied spirits, which is why they looked all fuzzy. They need bodies. But they're on the earth. So the bodies need to get rid of God's name, because that's protection. But they need the permission of human beings. So they fool them. Jesus already defeated Satan at the cross. We have authority and power. So his next best thing to do is to convince the people with power to give up their power to him. And then provide him a body so that he can operate in his power. So the Tower of Babel is all about power. Power, becoming gods, becoming stronger, trying to overthrow. But these people are not worthy of such power. They're depraved. Now, Satan is like a little child that throws a tantrum, sees a sculpture of God, and then starts putting all sorts of disgusting things on the sculpture and creates a monstrosity. And says, my creation's better. Where do you think Hermetic teachings come from? It's like a hermaphrodite. That was Satan's creation. He doesn't like things that are separate and in order. So he puts them together, smashes them together, and creates a monstrosity of like half human, half woman, half this, half monster, half god, half whatever. In order to create a monstrosity that is hospitable for his friends in the lower realms, the lower dimensions. His angels are in the higher dimensions. It's like in the firmament. They'll come down soon. You saw those stars, those lights coming down? That's them. That's them. That's the Satan's angels or the Watchers returning. And when the Watchers return, it's going to be quite interesting. But that's what they need. They need your permission. You're powerful, human beings. You're powerful in Jesus Christ alone. All right, not the universe, not your goddess or whatever. All of them are those aliens or those spirits, disembodied spirits that will soon find bodies, and then your gods will definitely come to life in that day and time. But they are all using human bodies. The aliens, the Greys, the Draconians, they're all part human. But each and every one of them has DNA attached to them that altered the human genome. Draconians have the lizard genome. So no, they don't come from a different space. They were genetically modified human beings. They have more reptilian DNA than anything else. And this is why they're so depraved and will eat children and kill, and they're more aggressive. Highly intelligent, but aggressive. Have you ever seen The Amazing Spider-Man? How the Doctor was a good man as a human, but then when he injected DNA of a lizard, he became like he couldn't control his mind. He became aggressive and always thinks about evil continuously. That is exactly what was happening in Noah's time. And what did Jesus said? That the time that he returns will be like in the days of Noah. Boom. So Nimrod is the Antichrist. Yep, that dead old body. They're going to resurrect him, his spirit, and place it in a clone of his body. Which is just an old practice of the homunculus that they've been practicing for many, many centuries. There's nothing new under the sun. Okay? So they're combining science, unethical science, with spirituality, esoteric practices. Or spiritual knowledge or alien technology to create immortals, physical immortals that rule the earth with an iron fist, depravity, death, and so forth. But remember, those who operate in deception fear you. They fear you because you have the Holy Spirit within you, if you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. If you didn't, you're fair game. You're fair game. They're too tough for you guys. You're not going to make it. But with the Holy Spirit, we are unstoppable. Until the appointed time where they're allowed to win. But they're only allowed to win so that we're out of the way. And then judgment can take place on the earth. Many on the earth will be part of these judgments, and they'll come to faith on the earth. Those are the 144,000. They're going to have a really tough time. But they're capable of it. They're built for it. God knows what he's doing. Stop trying to look for the Antichrist. He just might pop up in a giant human being someday that looks immaculate and strong, looks like a giant hunter, looks grander than life. His friends are going to come from out of the sea under the earth through pits. His spirit will enter, and you'll know who he is. It'll be pretty obvious. Okay? Man, so this is not the way I wanted to describe it, but please watch the video. It's of Rob. He breaks it down in such a beautiful way. But this makes so much sense, like in terms of like logic. Devil can't create, so he has people create for him, and then he wants his friends to be up, his lower dimensional friends to be up on the earth, but he needs bodies in order to do that. So he creates robotic bodies, but those are not good enough. So he creates DNA altered bodies, so that way he is allowed to go in. The devil cannot perform miracles. He can only appear as if he's making miracles. He uses humans to create. He uses lies. He teaches them knowledge so that the humans that are able to create can create the circumstances to create a miracle. But it's all deception. It's using really high-tech technology to sell the idea. That's why technology is going to be such a big role in terms of bringing Nimrod back, as well as the mark of the beast, and as well as creating Nephilim back on the earth again. That's how the Nephilim came back. It was through unethical sciences. Genetic engineering. Where do you think Enki and Leo got that? They're genetically engineered beings. They were teaching humans how to do it themselves. This is how they created offsprings. And this is why we have draconians. This is why we have minotaurs. This is why we have all those, mythical creatures. They're all wiped out in the ocean. And yes, even mermaids, which are sirens, which are just half human, half fish, or filled with demonic siren spirits, the spirit of the marine kingdom. You have to be careful, guys. Use discernment. They want your bodies, and they want your mind. That's the goal. And they're going to attack it through the altering of DNA with the technology of AI. Alright, guys. Hope you liked it.